YouTubers. In the last video we talked about functions and what functions can encapsulate from a code perspective, how you encapsulate a bunch of actions and bunch of code to do some things. Alright, so you've learned about types, you've learned about iteration, you've learned about if statements and switch cases, and you've learned about functions. How can we put all that stuff into action? What I'm going to tell you about is one of the most important things about programming. If you remember in the first video, we talked about visualization, how you can visualize something in real life and then bring that as a model to your program to solve a certain problem in real life. Now, visualization is the number one thing you want to care about as an engineer. Do not worry too much about the technology or the code that you're using, even though this is very focused on C# because it's an amazing language. But focus on how can I capture something in the world and visualize that and translate that into code. The same way you take a picture on something and put it on Instagram or Facebook. We're taking a picture of something in the real world and we're putting it as software, as code, so we can solve problems more effectively. So let's talk a little bit about visualization. Let's say we want to visualize, let's pick up something and try to visualize it. Let me show you how we're going to put everything we learned into action today. Let's visualize something like human beings in general, us as humans. We want to represent people and their actions, let's say at a coffee shop, right? So if I'm gonna go visualize a human being, I need to start learning about something called classes. Classes is basically the concept of the idea, something that generically encapsulates and captures the type of the thing that you're trying to represent in this real world. So in that case, we're just building a human model. Classes, models, are all the same thing. It's the same concept. So when you're building a human, what does a human have? They have properties, things that they have, such as name, such as date of birth, but they also can do things, right? And when we say they can do things, that means they can perform actions that'll do things to other things, right? So if we're talking about a coffee shop, then really all what we care about is an action that's related to that. So let's say order coffee. So this is a function, right? And this function does something. Right? It builds something, it does something. So let's say ordering coffee means to us that you're going to pass in, for instance, what kind of coffee you want, coffee type, right? And I'm gonna change that real quick and introduce you to something called enums. And enums, actually let's do that, instead of just waiting a little bit. Let's say enums are basically something that encapsulates, instead of having people passing free text, you get to put a restriction on what they can and cannot pass. So if I say coffee type, it can be, I don't know, mocha, it can be espresso. I'm probably spelling this wrong. Espresso, something like that. So what we're passing is a coffee type. Right, so this guy is going to be ordering coffee, and what comes out of that is the order that this person wants. Coffee. Right? And let's go build another object. Now we see how it's trying to fan out. It's starting to fan out. You're ordering coffee, but what you're ordering is returning something, right? So ordering coffee. Let's build a new class in here. If you do control period and generate a class, it'll just generate a new class for you. That's called coffee. And let's say this coffee let's say it has, what does a coffee has? It has a name. Maybe it has a size 12 or 8 ounces or whatever, right? let's go back to our human object. So we're returning a coffee, right? And then based on the type, based on the coffee type, this is how we are building our coffee, right? So if it's mocha, then return new coffee. We'll fix that in a second. In case it's espresso, return new coffee, right? And if it's neither, which is the default case, as we learned in switch cases, then just return null. Didn't order anything. So you see how I'm visualizing this with you. I'm visualizing the idea of how can I put something into perspective, and how can I visualize something that will simulate something that happens in the real world, right? Now let's go and see why this guy's mad. Oh, inconsistent inaccessibility. So if your method is public, that means it's accessible from outside of this class. Your class may as well be public meaning it can be accessed from outside of this class. The same thing goes to the enum type. Now everything should be happy, right? Alright, so we have coffee types. This is a person that will go and order coffee, right? Order coffee from who? There gotta be somebody there that will take that coffee order and process it. So let's go ahead and build a coffee shop right? And the coffee shop basically has a function that takes in that coffee object that someone will order and return something. It doesn't matter at this point. Let's just return whatever, right? It's a void anyway, so it'll just make coffee, right? The human can also do something else. They can drink the coffee. Drink coffee, right? And that'll do whatever is out there. Doesn't matter, right? How do we visualize that in real life? Let's build a new human. So I'm gonna say human. Let's say Hassan equals new human, right? And this guy has a name, and this guy also has a date of birth, whatever that is. It's little details. And then this guy can order coffee. So we could say the coffee that I want is what Hassan is ordering. Order coffee, which is, let's say, espresso, like that, right? And the other thing we want to do is we want to have this coffee being made. So let's make a coffee shop, and the coffee shop will take that order and make the coffee for us, right? And once the coffee is made, we get to go and say drink coffee, and we just drink that coffee. You see what I did there? I visualized a situation where someone, a human, his name is Hassan, is ordering an espresso. Take that espresso, give it to a shop. The shop make the order. Ask the shop to make the order. The coffee shop will make the coffee, and then Hassan will drink that coffee. Okay? Try to look something as an exercise try to look at something around you, a problem that you have. Let's say your room, for instance, and you want to organize your room. How can you visualize all the elements in your room so you have the computer find out the best way to organize these elements based on the perimeter of your room? Let's say your room is this wide by this length, I don't know, 7 or 10 feet by 20, and you have a disk and you have all that. It seems like you would need dimensions. You need to input the space of your room and then let the computer find out all the possible ways to organize your room for you and tell you where to put what in your room as an exercise. That's it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. And thank you for watching.